Hello, everybody, and welcome to What's the Story podcast. This is WTS 308, and my name is Danny Murray.
And I'm Graham Merrigan.
All right. Graham Merrigan, how are you, my friend? It's been a couple of weeks since our last one. Are you keeping well?
Yeah, I'm keeping good, well as expected. Just want to give a shout out to all my family who
Absolutely.
are going through went through a bit of a bereavement, not a bit of a bereavement. A powerhouse of our family passed away. My Auntie Mary, very very close with Auntie Mary as we all were, and I'm gonna miss her terrible. And I don't know if you remember, but when we had Cillian Murphy on, Auntie Mary rang me,
I do.
and I must go back onto that episode because I put the phone onto Clelia and Clelia was talking to me, Auntie Mary. So I think that was maybe episode 62 or so. Anyway, I can't
Yeah.
remember. But I would often send her episodes that I think she'd be interested in, and she got a new enough phone maybe in the last 4 years that she could listen to the episodes, and she thought it was great. So I'm gonna miss her terrible.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to give an acknowledgement to that.
Absolutely, man. And Auntie Mary popped up on this podcast a couple of times over the years, and I believe at one stage she gave out to me for swearing too much as well.
She did
So
indeed.
I will do my best, as you've mentioned there appropriately in this episode. I'll do my best not to swear today, and
Good.
sh shine on, Auntie Mary, and thinking of you and all your family, mate.
Thank
Um,
you.
to move it along a little bit, then this episode is going out on a Saturday in early May, but tomorrow, Sunday, the whatever that'll be of May, was that the 6th, 5th, 6th,
Fifth.
the 5th of May, anybody tuning in to RTE Radio 1 on Sunday evening will hear a very familiar voice, Graham American.
I will. I took part in a documentary. The great Susan Denny contacted me. Um, Jesus, this is going on maybe 2 years. So Susan has a daughter with a disability, and Susan is a brilliant, brilliant advocate. And she is a radio producer, and she contacted me with the idea. And at the start, I had said no. I rejected respectfully because I just felt that there was other people with disabilities that even I know are out there anyway with more kind of serious issues.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't have. I mean, I'm 39 now. I would have had issues in my 20s or fighting for things, still fighting for things, to be honest. But I just felt that there was probably, and I'm probably not doing myself justice, but I just felt that there was probably other stories out there that probably deserved the airtime rather than mine, so to speak. So at the start of the process 2 years ago, I respectively declined and gave Susan suggestions, and then 2 years ago she was reaching out about the idea, but she is waiting to get funding. So she got funding the end of last year, and she contacted me again, and she kind of proposed to me the angle she wanted to use me in, and we had a great conversation. We had loads of great conversations on the phone, and throughout the conversations that we had, she was like, "I want you on the podcast, or sorry, on her show, on her she had 6 episodes. The last one on the train, it's called, and I'm episode five. So I did agree to do it. We met, kind of talking about the inaccessibility of the new bats, and then just kind of talk about life and stuff.
That's
So
the public baths in Dunleary.
yes, the public bats in Dunleary, that 18 million renovation, 18 million euro renovation, and wasn't accessible
I was going
on
to
its
say,
launch.
there's parts of Everest that have a better incline for wheelchairs than that Jason's ramp.
You wouldn't be wrong. It was laughable. I mean, for public funds to be spent and not all of the public can access it. And I don't mean just exclusively to wheelchair users, but the elderly,
Yeah.
people with bad knees or bad hips or whatever, they wouldn't have been able to access this properly. So that's where we started. And we went down there, and then we had a good conversation. So I'm really I trusted Susan.
Yep.
I trusted her to do a good portrayal of it. And as we talk now, I haven't listened to it yet. I've listened to the ad, in which I like, but as usual, I don't really like the sound of my own voice. But Susan says it's brilliant. So yeah, as I said, I trust Susan. She's a great disability advocate, and that's what's on Sunday. RT Radio One, 7:30, the last one on the train, and I am episode 5.
Amazing. Amazing.
And I clash on RTE programming this week with our friend Paul Howard. Paul Howard is on RTE one on Monday. Or sorry, on Sunday I have 7 with the keys to your life. Is that what it's called?
Keith, yeah, I think that's the Brendan
The Brendan Courtney
Courtney
show.
show. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Paul is on that as well. So I no doubt I'll get more viewers than Paul. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. You do well, people viewing their radio. You want them listening to that, Merrill.
Oh,
Um,
sorry, yeah.
they're just
You
looking
get
at the
me.
radio. It's no good to you, pal.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull you up a little bit as well there because
Oh,
you're always reluctant to champion yourself, I find. And even there when you're talking about the process with recording that radio documentary and you were putting other people over before yourself, to use a wrestling parlance. But I think you do yourself a discredit there, Mero. And more often than not, I take the mickey out of you in this podcast. But today we're giving you your flowers as well, man. You were a good voice to call upon for that. And that is reflected in the fact that this is a multi-award winning podcast, but you now have your own solo award as the volunteer of the year. And that's not an IRB reference to people in the Occupied Six. It is very much so due to Graham's amazing work in the community. Tell us a little bit about your recent award win, mate.
thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah, I was nominated by Mark Barry and Jack Shannon Cole in the DLR Community Awards. They happen yearly, and I was nominated for my volunteer work with the Ballyrock Bulls, because like I would do everything really in the background with the Ballyrock Bulls in terms of organising kits,
Yeah.
matches, player registration, subs, do everything.
Hooking your mates
But
up with
also
hoodies after super requests.
absolutely, and all the number one supporter actually.
Amazing. I'll
Um,
take it.
y Yourself and Robert Kavanagh got a gorgeous Ballybrack Bulls Kappa hoodie. Anyway,
I have
uh,
wore it around the streets of Portlaoise and I've been no, I'm always admired compared to some of the cabbage heads down here. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not used to seeing people with 10 fingers and or
trendy,
eight fingers and two thumbs in. But there we go. But the hoodie definitely got me a few second glances as I was
deadly,
sniffing and profiling Ric Flair style.
but deadly. But also, it was for work with Ballybrack Bulls, and also, the last 10 years, I suppose, I've been volunteering with the National Rehabilitation Hospital. Again, close friend Mark Barry is an employee over there. He's a liaison officer between the Irish Wheelchair Association and the hospital. He would have got me involved ad hocly about 10 years ago, um, and for the first kind of 6 years, it was quite ad hocly. There was no kind of volunteer group or whatever. It was Mark just asking, listen, can you give a hand out with this, that, and the other, and I'd go over. But in the last 2 to 3 years, the hospital have, since the renovation, have had
Mm.
a they have now a great volunteer coordinator, Jennifer Glansford, and she runs the volunteers over there. And I think there's like up to 100 volunteers in the hospital. So I work with the Daisy unit, which is the pediatrician unit.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's called the Daisy unit. So primarily be under 15s that would have had some type of life changing accident, whether it be amputee loss, limb loss, sorry, um, strokes, cancer,
Yeah, yeah.
all types of kind of conditions where they're recovering. I would teach them. I do wheelchair skills, teach them how to use a wheelchair because it's the first time ever sitting in a wheelchair. And we do a couple of multi sports, and we play all type of sports with them, like bulldog. Remember bulldog as a kid, Dan?
I
Like
do.
we played that. we put the kids in sports chairs and we play bulldog in the sports hall.
Unreal.
What was the other one? What time is it, Mr. Wolf? We played that. We play
Used to
wheelchair
love
rugby.
that. Used to love
Yeah,
the game.
yeah,
Hands
yeah, it's
down.
great. It's great. We used to we play that. We play wheelchair rugby. We play bocce. We play all types of sports. And then I got Suggsy, the great Suggsy, got trained up in January, and he is
Yeah,
now a part of the NRH pet therapy department. So
unbelievable.
patients who are long term in the hospital, they might miss their dog. They might be in the hospital 2, 3 months. They miss their dog. They get referred to this, but also it can help and can bring on physio progression with limbs and stuff. So Suggsy does that, trying to kind of doing it once a week now, where he just visits patients in their beds, and he doesn't realize the smiles on people's faces. He doesn't realize what he's over there for, but everyone loves him over there. So yes,
Love
that's
it.
why I got Volunteer of the Year
Good
for
man.
DLR.
Well,
So thank you for that.
congratulations and well done on giving us 10 minutes of filler for the opening of the podcast. I really appreciate that. Um,
It was all me, Dan, wasn't
it
it? Me and
was,
Auntie
yeah, which
Mary.
is nice because normally it's me that's just waffling. And
Yeah,
but no, truly, Mero, congratulations, well deserved. Look forward to listening to the documentary. And yeah, now,
thank you.
right, shall we
Who we
go?
who, who do we have on this week, Dan? Who was our guest this week?
Thank, thank you for asking, Graham. Our guest this week is Richy Craven. Now, Richy came to my attention a few years ago when he put out what I regard as one of the greatest Twitter threads of all time, involving his job in a supermarket at Christmas and the Christmas shopping. We touched on a little bit in our chat with him, but he has now newly published, newly released, written a book called Spirit Level. And I picked up a copy of it over the weekend. It's absolutely brilliant. And we asked Richy onto the podcast to have a chat with us. So here it is, Richy Craven talking about his new book, Spirit Level. Delighted to say Richy has joined us now. Richy, thanks so much for your time, man. Really, really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
How's life post book launch? Are you being stopped in the street? Are you being flagged for attention everywhere? Hordes of people coming at you. I hope. Genuinely.
Somebody who worked with my sister shouted at me on the street, and if that's the level it goes to, because I didn't enjoy that at all. I was walking with my fiance. Someone shouted at me. I wish I could say that I like fronted up and was like ready to. I just like reacted like an old Southern woman who just saw like a mixed race couple on television. I was just like hand to breast, going like, "Oh my stars!" So yeah, it's not happening, and I believe if it did happen, I would probably just die from shock.
That's fair. That's fair. Firstly, look, in all seriousness, congratulations. First book out, Spirit Level. I'm loving it. I am all of only about 60, 65 pages in. And I found myself very quickly, uh, I, not just because his name is Danny and my name is Danny, but I found myself very
I was
quickly,
gonna say, yeah.
yeah, I found myself very quickly identifying a lot of when he was, and I just, yeah, I'm already kind of feeling a connection there, which is great in any book. And like, how did you get into the writing in the first place?
I wanted to write for about like since I was a kid. I was a huge
Mm.
reader when I was a kid. I wanted to. I think I don't know if I was the only one like this, but I kind of felt like when you're young and even a little bit in the back of your head as you grow up, you kind of feel like, well, in order to write a book, you obviously need some sort of special license from the government. They don't just let anyone write a book. And then you go, okay, maybe, but I say it in the acknowledgement, it's very easy not to write a book. Like I wanted to, but like just the act of sitting down every day or every few days and putting the work in, it was just so easy not to do. So when lockdown happened, myself and my partner were up in an apartment in Stepaside, and I told her about the book idea before and that I'd want to write it, but I also came out with all sorts of excuses. Like I was like, I don't have a working laptop, or I don't have the time. So in lockdown, I think we watched all of Grey's Anatomy and all of Doctor Who, and then she was like, "You have the time," and she got me a laptop for my birthday. She was like, "No excuses, sit in the corner and get going." So
What was
I kind of
was that part of imposter syndrome or just laziness?
uh, not starting was pure laziness.
All
Like
right.
I wish I could say that like there was some. It was just like sitting down and getting started is tough. Now I gave up halfway through writing it the first time around, and that was imposter syndrome. That was I'd written about 50,000 words, and it's like, I was like, who's gonna read this? I'm writing this weird book that's about ghosts and anxiety and drink. Who the hell's gonna read this? And then so I gave up about 6 months in, and then had something kind of blow up on social media with my writing, and that suddenly became, it's like, okay, there may be an audience out there who might want to read this. So that was kind of my kick up the hole to go back and finish it.
I don't want to, because I'm sure kind of everybody has probably brought it up with you, but you mentioned it there, and I'm assuming you're referencing what became my favorite tweet or my favorite Twitter thread ever in the best Christmas story told since a Muppets Christmas Carol. Is that what
Yeah.
you're
Yeah, look, I've given up. I'm not trying to distance myself from that at all. That is going to be on my headstone. It's going to be a 9 foot tall headstone to fit it all in. Yeah, no, that was kind of really, it got me a lot of exposure online, got me some followers, got me a platform that I can kind of try and shill the book now to people on it. But the most thing it did was go, okay, people really enjoyed that. It's a very different story to what I'm writing, but the book is
yeah,
about, but it's the same tone, same humor, same writing. So it was the kind of thing that said, okay, Rich, you sit down. There may be someone out there who would read this.
definitely. Yeah. And that,
Um,
that humor does definitely come across, even in, and like within the first sort of 60 pages that I'm in, it's heavy, but there's a lot of humor in there as well. And like that tweet, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, if you go onto Richie's Twitter, Richie, what's your Twitter again?
at Richy Craven.
We'll get the plug in nice and early with that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll find it. It's the greatest Christmas story, the greatest Irish Christmas story ever told. It's absolutely amazing. But in terms of that humor, that's like it's coming through in the book and everything else. Like, have you always seen yourself as a bit of a kind of, got that little bit of a comedian in me, or was it just something that in your writing you were like, I think I've got something here?
Not really, not like growing up. I don't think I was ever funny growing up, really. And if I was, like, I wasn't a class clown or anything. I would be the more likely to say something quietly to like my friend sitting beside me rather than out loud to everyone, which is why I like writing, and it's why I liked like the Twitter aspect back when it was a little bit more wholesome. Or I don't even know if it was ever wholesome, but that's, you can just, yeah, I almost hide behind the writing. I have so much respect for anyone who's able to do that with like in stand-up comedy or in like giving speeches, just because I don't have the thought of people looking at you while you're doing it and waiting for that laugh is very, just would do me in, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I completely get you there. It's a skill. It's definitely a skill. And I wanted to actually, because I only caught a friend of the show and made aware of Paul Howard, he's a great author, hilarious, and he does all kinds of stuff. I'm often in awe of how he not just his writing, but how he does that kind of public stuff as well. And he does it so brilliantly. And
I
so
love Pop Word. I'm a huge fan. And the thing I am almost most impressed with, because I've loved the books, but it's the like it's how the output he's able to manage, like the discipline to sit down. Like this took me that took a year to write, and like however long to come out. The discipline to sit down and have to write that, like, because they come out about every year and a half or something like that. That's almost the most impressive thing to me, because I just wouldn't have it. I don't think I have that in me myself. But I'm a
Yeah,
huge
every
fan of.
September, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. And just the way, and I like, you can see that now in the book, especially in the later books. It's kind of like I think Russell Carl Kelly, who's his character, goes to like Africa in one to confront the warlords. At this point, he's kind of writing what he wants, but he's still managing to put them out every year, and that's hugely impressive to me.
That's it.
And I've always liked those ones.
And
Paul told us it took him years to get into that kind of structure, and the structure being waking up at 5 o'clock every morning and doing literally a full day of work.
I didn't know that. That's not worth it. The success. If I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm abandoning it now. I am no use to anyone before 9 o'clock in the morning, and I've limited use until noon.
But yeah, I bring Paul up purely because I noticed him actually tweeting to say, you know, and to congratulate you. He got an advance copy of the book or whatever. And when you mention that, just curious thing. So like, what does it feel? Because obviously you've said it yourself there, like a lot of work. It nearly didn't happen. You kind of gave up halfway through. So then you speak about your admiration for somebody like Paul. So when you see people like him, and when you see kind of, you know, you've got people like Alison Spittle and Damien Owens and that kind of contributing to blurbs for the book. That must be a lovely feeling for you, that these people who are accomplished in their own right are saying, I want to plug this guy. I want to say something nice. This is brilliant, and I want to get behind it.
It's great. It really is. And so like Alison Spittle, as in Damon Owens, Louise Neal, they all gave us like plugs for the book really, really early. So I had reached out to them and they were very nice about it. We'd sent Paul out. So Paul, Marion Keyes and a few others, we'd sent them out a book. So that we had sent them out an arc, but I had no idea if they got it. I had no idea if they were reading it. Both of them get so many like advanced copies of books from Irish writers. Like I think Marion once like panned around when she was doing one of her like Insta Live things to show how many like her book mail, and it's just enormous. So I was like, I had no idea if they would read it, if they would want to read it, even if they wanted to read it. I don't know if they were going to get to it in the year. So in both cases, it kind of just came out of nowhere. I was kind of scrolling, and then Paul Howard and Marion Keyes came up, and that's just, you kind of don't know where to put the energy. It's a very overwhelming feeling, especially for people like Marion and Paul, who I really, really admire as writers, and like they're both of them are really good at, I guess, shepherding on new writers as well and promoting new writers. So yeah, it was just incredible. And like the funny people that we had, like we have Sean Burke, who gave us a quote and is doing the audiobook, and just the fact that he wanted to do the audiobook and was willing to do it, and the job he did on it was just incredible. I was kind of, again, I have a day job that I go to every day, and I'm kind of just, sometimes you have to sit there and fill in your timesheet, or sit there and like do your emails, and you're kind of going in the back of your head like, God, Paul Howard just retweeted, like Paul Howard just plugged the book, and it's like, okay, now Q3 we need to look at our productivity in this. It's really weird.
Yeah, that's it.
When you were writing the book, did you have deadlines, or did that come after the book was written? Like, was that all planned out? Because you said you took a break halfway through.
Yeah, so I took a break halfway through, and it coincided when I'd qualified for a sabbatical in work. So I'd been there long enough I could take a few months off. So a few things had coalesced in life. I'd just gone through like the first year of lockdown. I found really tough. It kind of snuck up on me. I thought it was fine. Me and my partner were very lucky that we both were able to work through it. I was able to work from home. We had, our place up in, we had our own apartment. So we were like in a much better place than a lot of people. But like by Christmas 2020, and that's part of the reason I tweeted that story, because I was just trying to bring up memories of a better one. By the end of January, I was just really, really burnt out from kind of work and just lockdown in general. So I had the opportunity to take that sabbatical. So I gave it to myself as a kind of finish this book in that 3 months. And so that was what I kind of set myself to. And then, I'd finished the first draft around March 2020. I'd got a draft I was happy with by March 2021. I was happy with it by late March, or late 2021, early 2022.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until it was a full year and a bit before like I even got any interest in public. Like I'd moved on from it. I thought it wasn't going anywhere. So it's a long process.
And so I'm really interested in that because that's I suppose it's a part of that a lot of people wouldn't be familiar with in terms of, or they wouldn't really know the background in terms of that. You know, you've put the energy into it. You've had the crisis of conscience halfway through. Will I? Won't I? You ultimately do, and then you have to go and try and pitch it and hawk it out to different publishers and that kind of thing. Like without trying to be a downer on it or whatever, like that must be exhausting when you're trying to flog something that you've put so much energy into.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd said this elsewhere. So, the traditional publishing, you don't pitch directly to publishers for the most part. They only take submissions from literary agents. So, the kind of the first thing is to get an agent. So, that's what I spent like I think 14 months, 15 months trying to do. And I said this elsewhere, but it's not like the rejection wasn't the worst thing. It was like just the apathy because I maybe have 10 to 15 rejection emails. I have 40 to 50 submissions that I just never heard back on.
Yeah.
So that's why I'd kind of moved. And it's not uncommon for someone not to sell their first book. A lot of the people I'd planned to just kind of use it as a learning experience, move on to something else. I started writing something else. I kind of moved on from it mentally. And I was just very fortunate that an agency in the UK found the submission and liked the sound of it and were willing to work with me to try and kind of find a home for it.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, thankfully today, because as I said, really enjoying the moment. So we've jumped around a bit there, right? So just to sort of go back to Two-Spirit level itself, then you, tell us a little bit, because I kind of jumped with the questions. Tell us a little bit about the kind of characters in it and where you got the idea from.
Yeah, well, I mean, I struggle to. I'm the worst at actually plugging my own book, which I'm slowly learning over the course of this whole experience. But the book is about a guy called Danny who is kind of fresh out of college. He's feeling a bit directionless. He's feeling like everybody else has their life together but him. But he's got a friend he called Nudge, and they kind of hang around together. But then once after a party one night, they get into a drink driving accident. Nudge passes away. Danny is injured. And afterwards, Danny finds that he can still see Nudge's ghost, but only when he's drunk. So Danny has to figure out, is this really happening? Is it just the grief? And if it is really happening, why isn't Nudge crossing over? And they have to kind of go figure things out. But he has to be drunk the entire time.
Yeah. And it's, as I said, I'm at the point. I'm just the funeral was the bit I read. Nudge's funeral was the last bit I read, and even in that, like as I was saying earlier, that it is a little bit of an emotional one, but it's also you've got the humor in there as well. It's well balanced, I think. So like in terms of the idea, even that alone, I think it's kind of Irish in that piece of can still communicate with the dead, but only after a few jars.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea for that, man?
But this is kind of like a snowball gathering speed. So I had the idea of just like being able to see ghosts, but only when you're drunk was just kind of like, oh, that'd be funny. And I had that around college time, but never really did anything with it. And then I lived through that period after college where I was still working in the off license that I'd worked in since I was 19. And I feel like everyone was doing a PhD and everyone was getting a career or emigrating. And I was the only one like still kind of in that weird transitionary period. So I was like, oh, I should write about this at some stage. And then later on, I had some mental health issues and some kind of diagnosed with OCD and anxiety. And that wasn't something I'd ever seen really depicted well in books or on television. I was like, I should write. And so that all kind of coalesced to when I sat down to write this book. It was kind of all of those merging together to kind of create what eventually became the finished product.
That sounds it sounds brilliant and very, very creative. And often when I read stuff or whatever, I always feel like I want to see it on screen as well. Would that be a hope for you?
I mean, that's yeah. I mean, you always the goalposts always move with these kind of things. Like 2 years ago, I would have taken your hand off just to get an agent, and then after that, I would have snapped up any sort of book deal, and then you want the book to do well, and then in your head you're going like, well, could we do something with this? So we have, I mean, like the agency I'm with does specialize in trying to get those book to screen transfers, but we like there's been nothing concrete so far. But that whole, this was one of the eye opening things about writing the book is like that industry of snapping up the rights to book is much bigger and much more widespread than I'd thought about, or even knew about. Because even before we had got a publisher for the book, like production companies would ask the agency for the manuscript. So like that's how early some of these agencies are picking up
Well,
like books. Because I guess if something does take off, they want to have it there and want to know about it and want to be the ones to make the offer. Now we have nothing really concrete for Spirit Level, but yeah, obviously it is something that would be incredible.
Yeah.
these things
Because
take time as well, though, don't they? So
yeah,
it's not, it won't just kind of happen overnight, but everything that I read or described, even I suppose mostly listening to you and Danny there talking about specifics, you're kind of like, you're visualizing it as a dark kind of Irish comedy type humor. Almost like, I don't know if you've seen that show, The Dry. It's a comedy
I
drama.
haven't. No.
Hmm.
Very, very good. But it's very Irish in that it's the girl is trying to come off drink, and there's so many
Right.
aspects of her life that are putting her back to drink, whether it be the mother or father splitting up, whether the ex-boyfriend's coming back in, but everything's just failing. And I just I got imagery of the book in that kind of format.
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of the adaptation of books or comic books like that is always really interesting to me. I really like to see because sometimes if you have an adaptation that's so far from the source material that you're like, why did they even bother like with the title? And then there's others where it's actually like they try to keep too much of it on the screen at once and it's a bit messy. So like there is an art to that like adaptation and it is something that I'm really interested in. But
Absolutely.
even when Sean did the audiobook, that was kind of his own interpretation of it. Sorry, Sean Burke, who's
Hmm.
I'm sure everyone knows from his comedy online. So he'd agreed to do it, and then he went off and recorded it, and I got an advanced copy of the audio. That was huge for me because I was like, he's doing an interpretation of these characters I've written. You know, I knew the story, but I was kind of like, oh, I wonder what he's going to do for this character that's coming up or this character that's coming up. It was really that aspect of it was really cool.
Brilliant.
That's something that always interests me as well in terms of like sometimes the audiobook can just be like a straight read and it's a little bit dull and it's a little bit kind of like but I think more and more people are starting to tune into like the production value, if you get me, and like that the way
Yeah.
the characters come across and that kind of thing. Like had you always hoped or always planned for it to be turned into an audiobook to kind of that market seems to be getting bigger and bigger, or was it a case of it was, opportunistic and strike while you're in the sock kind of thing?
I think it's just kind of a standard, particularly with like traditional publishers, that they will release an audiobook because, as you said, it is such a huge market now. Like, so many people, and it opens up books to a lot of people who have, like, I know a lot, like people in my family and friends of mine that are like dyslexic and would struggle to read books,
Yeah.
but have kind of gotten access to them now through the audiobook. So that was always going to be on the cards. But I really liked Sean's comedy thing. So we sent out him an early copy to see if we could get a quote. And while we were doing that, I saw that he'd done voiceover. So I was trying to go to the publisher. It's like, could we ask Sean? How does this work? I have no idea. And Sean came back and said that he liked the story and actually offered that like if we were doing an audiobook, to throw his hat in the ring. So I was like,
Amazing.
oh yeah, I'll get back to you about that. We'll see. You know, there'll be a no.
Playing
Like
it
we took
cool,
his hand off. Yeah.
playing hard to
So
get.
that just kind of came together really, really. Like we were just really fortunate that came together so well.
Love that. And is the audiobook out yet, or is that
Yeah, that came out with alongside
they came out together? Brilliant.
the paperback.
Love it, because I know sometimes there's a little bit of a lag in them or whatever. But it's I know it's the exact thing you said there. Like, one of my best mates is dyslexic, and he's completely put off by books, and his Audible subscription is his favorite thing in the world, because like that, the stuff that he previously wouldn't have touched, it's opened up a whole new world to him in terms of that. And then he does be going mad when books come out, and I'll say to him, "Oh man, you should have a look," and then it's not in audiobook format. So yeah, 100%. It's great.
Yeah,
Great
I
to have
do.
access to.
I'm the same. I'm not dyslexic, but I've started to a lot do audiobooks. Now obviously with novels, it's always with novels. The author, like yourself, Richie, is you kind of look to somebody else to do the audio. Did you ever consider yourself doing the audiobook yourself?
Well, so one of the editing processes I did, because there was actually something that really annoys me about audiobooks. There's a book I loved I was reading. I read it in physical format, and then one of the days, a few years later, I was like, I'll listen to the audiobook while I'm doing this task. And for whatever reason, I hadn't noticed it when reading it, and I don't think you would notice in that, but there were dialogue tags on every single sentence. And by which I mean, he goes, "We need to go," he said. "Okay," she said. "We need to go now," he said. Like, after every single sentence, and it was driving me up. I had to turn it off. So I did, and this was suggested to me as a good editing pass, is where you go and read the thing aloud, because you catch,
Oh yeah.
your eyes glaze over certain things. So like, I had got a draft that I was pretty happy with. I'd like edited it to pieces, and I was like, this is great. This is ready to go. So like, I'll do this audio pass, like I'll do this reading aloud pass. And the amount of times I'd find myself going like, Danny walked up the stairs upwards. You're like, okay, I need to maybe have a look at that again. But I'd read through it aloud so many times that I just did not want to. I couldn't listen to myself do it again. So Sean coming in was a blessing.
Definitely. And that is
Brilliant.
a great trick for anyone that's writing. My 9 to 5 involves copywriting and that kind of thing. And the reading it out loud is one of the best things, because you instantly catch either the repetitive stuff or even just the stuff that sounds clunky and awkward. And you're like, what the fuck am I trying to actually say here? And you can trim so much fat off things by doing that reading it out loud piece. Um, the the interesting thing with writing a book to me is always the process itself. And you kind of touched on it a little bit. And if you don't mind me asking, Dim, when you were going through that process, it's kind of, it's more isolated, it's more siloed. It's very much, now in the aftermath of it, when you're doing kind of, not necessarily this chat, but I mean, like, you done Ireland AM during the week, you've done a couple of other things. What have you found is the biggest difference in terms of the doing the plugs versus doing the actual work itself?
It's actually it's something I wish I'd known going in. It's a good question, because you think of writing the book as the biggest thing about it, but then you have to write the book, and then you have to sell the book, and then you have to plug the book, and they're all different muscles, they're all different skill sets, and they're all, I'm not necessarily I wasn't necessarily prepared for the plugging part, I don't think, because it's a whole different skill set, I think. And it is weird, like, seeing reviews in different spaces and seeing kind of those reviews come in, because these are characters that I created and I was living with in my head for years, and then suddenly people are talking to you about them, and it's just kind of like, how do you know about Danny? Like, I know how I know about Danny, but how do you know about Danny?
Yeah.
And it is very surreal. So like, the Ireland AM thing, that that was that came out of kind of left field a bit, because I hadn't really known that was coming. I got a kind of a last minute warning that it was going to be on, and I hadn't known what was going to be said, and it was on with Salman Rushdie's book. So I was like, okay, is this going to be like, here's Salman Rushdie's book, and also this local man wrote a local book? But Kira was so nice about it.
Yeah, and Salman Rushdie's book is like, I didn't see the segment on Ireland AM, but his book is him talking about, being stabbed and nearly dying.
27 times. Yeah.
Yeah. It's heavy. You know what I mean? So,
he lost an eye, didn't he?
Yeah, and he has like mobility. He lost function of his hand. It sounds. Yeah, I was listening to the recap of that book and it's like, oh God, my stupid book about drinking and ghosts is coming up next. This guy had a fatwa declared against him by Iran, and now I'm my book about how hard it is to be 24 is going to come up next. Great.
The people of Cork are probably going to declare that fatwa against you based on
that's some friendly inter-county rivalry for my Cork friends.
That's all it is. Yeah. It's one of them. It's the age-old thing, and it never ever fails to put a smile on people from Dublin's face. So more of it, I say. But yeah, so the press antics anyway has been a little bit of a learning curve for you in that regard.
Yeah, I really we went on to do. I got to go in to talk to Ray Darcy in the RT studios, and I was coming down to like sit outside and wait, and Pat Short was there going on next with his friend, his colleague Mike. They're doing some RT show where they go around and do different county songs. So what I wasn't expecting someone else to be there. It was Pat Short, and B, him and his friend have a saxophone and a guitar. And I was like, am I following you? It's like, yeah. It's like, are you guys playing a song? I was like, yeah. I was like, cool. I can't wait. This is going to be like, I'd been nervous going in and then nervous to be following those,
You didn't decide to try and break into a karaoke number just to try and...
I was looking up the lyrics to Wagon Wheel, but I decided against it.
Probably for the best. Wagon Wheel at this
couldn't get the levels right in studio.
That's it. So, right, this one's out, Richie. It's on shelves now, available in all good bookshops and some rubbish ones too. But what's next for you then? Is there more writing going on at the moment, or are you kind of giving yourself the headspace to take a break from it, or what's happening?
Are we getting a feature length book on the Christmas tree?
This is what I keep saying. If someone wants to buy that, people are going like, oh, it should be a movie, it should be this. Oh, pay me money for the rights. You can have it. I am for sale, people. I have no self-respect. I have no morals or principles when it comes to these things. Please, if anyone if anyone who listens to this wants to buy it, they are more than welcome to.
Develop the tweet into a feature length movie.
Yeah. That has happened already.
Yeah.
Has it?
Yeah, there was some. I can't remember what it's called at this point, but some thread about a stripper in America and how she went on this journey with a friend of hers, and it involved crime, and like the guy they were with. It begins with a Z. It's someone's name and it begins with a Z, and it was based on a Twitter thread. So I wouldn't even get there first. So what's the point?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Anything that's a few quid in, I'd be similar. I'd shell myself for a free lunch. Never mind that else. And people have accused us in the past of Soros. Graham, is that who you're? Are we still taking money off George Soros? Apparently.
Oh yeah. Remember that the videos that were made against us.
Stop.
It's the audio medium. Otherwise, they'll be able to see that you're head to toe in little merch. Like it's blue and yellow all the way, and I didn't even know they made little hats.
That's it. Look, I mean, the other side of it as well. This is a podcast that once upon a time was hawking Mickey razors for that company. They're peddling them everywhere. So we absolutely will take money for any old rope, But listen,
you hijacked the question there, though, Richie. Is there another book down the road, or now that you're a an actual a published author? Is this
I
part-time gig here to stay?
Yeah, well, I'm writing another one. There's, as I said, I'd kind of moved on to start something else when Spirit Level got picked up. But what happens next, as in what comes out next, is kind of up in the air. It kind of depends on how Spirit Level does. I'd love to write a sequel with those same characters if it was possible, but kind of how it goes next will all depend on how Spirit Level does. So, either we can maybe do another one, which I'd love, or we kind of maybe go back to the drawing board and kind of try and sell the new thing I'm writing. So it's all kind of up in the air at the moment.
But
Please
there's
buy the book,
options.
people.
There are, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
everyone
Buy the
buy the
book.
book.
Or download the audiobook, lads.
Yeah,
That's
Sean does a great job.
brilliant. Well, Richie, look, thanks so much for chatting to us about Spirit Level and everything else there. If people want to find you on social media or anything else, where is the best place for them to head to?
I'm really just on Twitter, so it's at Richy Craven, Richy Craven. I'm not really anywhere else. So, yeah, if you would like to follow me there, please do.
Deadly.
Perfect.
Love it. Yeah. Twitter is a bit of a cesspit these days, but there is still good in it. So definitely give Richie a look. And as you said, Spirit Level is the book and it's out now. And the audiobook's also out. So check that out, lads. But Richie, thanks so much for your time, man. Really enjoyed chatting to you.
Richie, thanks so
Perfect.
much.
Thanks so much for
And
having
the
me
best
on.
of luck with everything.
Cheers, lads.
Enjoyed that chat with Richie. Lovely, lovely guy. Very nice. Comes across
Absolutely.
just very genuine and wholesome. And yeah,
Modest.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as I said, yeah, look, the book is out in all good bookshops and some rubbish ones too. And as Richie said, the audiobook is also out there available for people who prefer to have it in their ears as opposed to in their eyes, so to speak. So check it out, give it a listen. It's his first book. It's always great to get behind Irish authors early in their career, and genuinely, genuinely funny and lovely read so far. Mero, I enjoyed that. It was nice to come back. Nice to,
Absolutely.
yeah, it was good. And nice to see it. Well, I saw your face physically in person not so
Yes.
long ago again, but it's always good seeing you here as well. The high
But I saw
definition
you on
camera.
Sunday in the farmer's market.
That's correct. That is correct. Yeah. I had an impromptu trip. I was going to visit the parents and he said, you know what? It's not a bad old day. We'll pop down to Dunleary as well. And it was gorgeous down there.
It was lovely. I was milling a crepe just before I saw you.
And I was undecided as to what food emporium I was going to darken with my
It
shadow.
is so hard though, isn't it?
I'm one of those people, the second there's more than three things to pick between, I can't make my mind up.
No,
I
either can I.
can't.
I just go to all reliable then a crepe.
You see, I don't like crepes and I don't like pancakes. The texture of those things gives me the ick. Um, so, like Cubes would like an old crepe now. She'd be mad for the crepes. Um, but they're not my gig at all, man. Yeah, yeah. What I did
You
I
sounded so sad because you don't get them.
I just don't, man. Pancake Tuesday every year for me is just misery.
See, I have pancakes all year round. I just don't wait till
Yeah,
Pancake
no,
Tuesday.
Cubes like that as well. We go out for breakfast and she'd order pancakes. And I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Like,
You
why?
want to see down in is it Gourmet Food Parlor? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the joint.
Yeah, Gourmet Food Parlor. Their pancake. Oh, they do like four American style pancakes, and they're Kinder Bueno. Oh, sensational.
I don't know, man. It's just not for me. It's not for, I feel like, do you know that? Have you ever seen that Gary Busey interview where he's a bit wired?
No.
And I'll send you a clip of it. But somebody asked him about buttered sausage, and he just has this mad reaction to it. What popped into my head there? I'm like, it's not my
Right.
jam. I'm like jam. I'm like honey. I'll send it. Yeah,
You had to be there, did you?
you have to be there. Very much so. You have to be there. Yeah. Right, Graham. That's it for this week. It's half time of the Champions League as we speak. So I'm gonna go watch the second half of that. I watched all of Baby
Lovely.
Reindeer over the weekend. Have you watched Baby Reindeer?
No, I'll watch it this weekend though.
It is beyond.
I did watch your other recommendation, Scoop, and I really enjoyed it. Thought
Scoop is
Billy
absolutely
Piper
fantastic.
was brilliant in it.
Billy Piper, absolutely fantastic in it. And a callback to our previous episode. with Brian Lloyd, TV and movie critic extraordinaire with entertainment.ie, and he challenged me to watch a couple of things. One was a Jennifer Lopez related thing, which challenged my theory that Ben Affleck makes everything 10 times better. And I've no problem admitting he was absolutely right. Even with Ben Affleck's presence, it was a pile of steaming dog toffee. So thanks, Brian, for ruining my Ben Affleck theory. I'll have to go and develop a new one now. Anyway,
Lovely.
right,
On that note,
yeah, people want to listen to previous episodes, you can go to WTSpod.com or just search WTS Pod wherever you get your podcasts, all your favorite podcast providers, and we'll be there with all 300 whatever episodes that precede this one to give you a warm little audio hug and get you through the day. Other than that, though, there is social media there. You can find us if you want to at Merrigamania, at Tanjo Murray, at WTS Pod. But until next time,
clear eyes.
bull hearts.
Can't lose.
Too sweet.
Too sweet. Thank you.